Yeah, he wasn't always the god. He was a god, and he wasn't even the chief god. Don't worry, you're still on the right side of TikTok. Hey, I'm Liv, the traveling pagan priestess. Today we're going to talk about the pantheon at the root of Christianity. Indeed, the world's most famous monotheistic religion, meaning there is only one God, comes from a polytheistic past. It even acknowledges this multiple times throughout its most important text, the Bible. God, as you know him today, has a name. His name is Yahweh, and he was part of the Canaanite pantheon, the ancient Israelite religion. So just like the Norse pantheon has Thor and Odin and Freya and Tyr and so on, and the Hellenic pantheon has Zeus and Hera and Hades and Hestia, the Canaanite religion had multiple gods as well. The high god, the father god, is the one that often gets confused with Yahweh, because over the years the texts started to morph them into one. El was his name, not Yahweh, and he was the chief god or the leader of the gods. Now, in this pantheon, there were multiple other divine beings, Asherah being probably the most obvious one to go to next. She is the divine feminine. Baal is one that you see mentioned in the Bible, as well as a fertility god. He's later demonized, treated as a chaos god. And Yahweh is the storm and warrior god. Now, this is a very loose and frustrating example, but if it helps you understand it a little bit better, you could think of El as Odin. You could think of Asherah as Frigg or Freya. You could think of Baal as Loki, kinda. And you could think of Yahweh as Thor. As a Norse pagan, it hurts my soul to say that, but hopefully it just helps you understand the pantheon a little better. Yahweh is a warrior god. He is the god of storms. He is the god of war. He is the god of divine violence, of territorial dominance. He is all about commanding loyalty through fear, just as this comment mentions. Biblical language and story backs this up very well, and I'll source it for you in the comments. I'm not going to take you through it in this video, but nothing I'm saying is disproving the Bible. If anything, everything I'm saying comes directly from it. He is referred to as the Lord of hosts, and hosts is a word that was used or translated to refer to armies. He is the Lord of armies. His divine commands for the Israelites in the ancient part of the Bible, in the Torah, in the Old Testament, all have to do with conquering land, taking land, defeating other people. And if we're to believe that the Ten Commandments, namely the collection of regulations that this God gave to his peoples as they followed him, were breathed by this God to Moses, then right in "thou shalt have no other gods before me," he states that there are other gods. He just requires his people to hold him at the highest seat. In a polytheistic system, there are multiple gods that rule over different aspects or facets of life. And if you're understanding the Canaanite pantheon, then you understand that Yahweh is specifically associated with war and storms. Thus, all of the clouds, thus all of the plagues. Hopefully it's starting to click. Monotheism wasn't a revelation. It wasn't an invention of Christianity. It was a slow political shift that began with this cult following of Yahweh. I have a lot of videos about what cults are, what religions are, and how to distinguish them, but let's do a brief overview again just to understand this. The word cult is used by religious historians to distinguish from a religion because a cult is something that follows one specific being and elevates that being above all other beings. It's also something you have to initiate into, meaning you have to do something, believe something, or stop doing something, or stop believing something in order to be a part of it. They have a tendency to demonize anything that is outside of them. So it's no longer just this is what we believe, but if you don't believe that, if you believe something else, you will be punished, you will be damned, you're a demon, it's a false god. It's very negative us and them structure. Monotheism isn't the absence of other gods. It's the denial that they exist. And specifically in a cult structure, such as where this started, it is a violent denial of those other gods existing or at least having power. It is elevating the one God, in this case Yahweh, to the chief seat. This is the God that above all other gods we will worship, we will make offerings to. And when you think about the ancient Israelites, when you think about the people of Canaan, these people were constantly warring with each other over territory, so of course the God that they would give the most offerings to and have the most interest in pleasing would be the God of war and conquest, so that he would help them win. This is not unique to the Canaanite religion. This is something that occurred all over the ancient world. Ares is a great example as the Greek war god, and Athena as well. These were gods that the Greeks very often built temples to, gave offerings to, and elevated. There were lots of cults for these specific gods, especially if you were a part of the army. Odin is another great example. He is associated with war and death and prophecy, and honestly, many things I could make a whole video about Odin. Odin is elevated as well because of his power status among the gods. Marduk, the Babylonian god, he rose to supremacy through conquest of the other gods. Ra, or Amun-Ra, is a god who merged to political power over the other gods, where he was sort of like a consolidated power godhead. Here's why this is important, and here's why we're talking about it now with everything that's going on in our world. When a culture or a people worships a conqueror god, when they lift a god of war above all other gods, conquest becomes sacred. Conquering others becomes holy duty. And the state of the world that we live in, with Christianity being one of the most dominant religions, having its God, Yahweh, be the God of war and conquest, makes so much sense. Authority over empathy, shame-based morality, sin and the need to blame and cause religious trauma, colonialism, and the forced conversion of those who do not believe. Learning the mythology of the Canaanite religion that this God that modern Christians worship comes from, it doesn't destroy the meaning of the faith. It doesn't even claim that this God doesn't exist. What it does is give you a choice to follow him. The issue with being raised under Christian ideology in the modern world is that the majority of us are never given access to this understanding. This is something that's studied in seminary, which is how I have amassed this knowledge. I studied this in school for the purpose of becoming a Christian pastor. We all saw how that worked out. But cult structures don't want to give you a choice. They want you to feel, if you don't believe what they tell you to believe, do what they tell you to do, that you will be punished, you will be damned, that you are an outsider forever, not only in this life, but in the afterlife as well. Over the course of history, as politics centralized, right, as kingdom centralized, religion centralized, you had one king, you had one nation, you had one God. Think about like the Roman Empire, for example. The other gods didn't necessarily disappear. They became rebranded as, quote, false gods or pagan gods. This is where my somewhat problematic personal opinion that Yeshua of Nazareth, or Jesus Christ, was not actually a follower of Yahweh, was not actually preaching for the people to come back to Yahweh, comes into play. Because the picture that he paints of God is a loving and kind and accepting, a father figure. He's not a conquesting war god who demands to be followed, worshipped, and believed in. This is why Christians don't make sense to you, as they preach about empathy and love and community and compassion, but live with this Yahweh-esque dominion equals holiness sort of attitude towards everything. Gods have history. We call it mythology. And understanding that mythology doesn't take the meaning away. It gives you back your power. It gives you back your choice. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you learned something. Remember to stay compassionate. In today's world, stay resilient and do your very best to be well.